G'day everyone, Spuddy from Spuds Games. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video we're going to be reviewing this Teac EU51ST RGB Scart CRT. Let's go. So just a little bit of history on this. I picked this up probably 6 months ago. I haven't really played around with it too much. I finally got an opportunity this weekend to take a bit of a look, have a look inside and see what this is about. It does have one RGB Scart input. It also seems to do composite, not a problem. I don't believe it does S-video. I've tried it and I just couldn't get it to work. So unless there's a problem with the chassis, then it doesn't do S-video. A good feature about this, it does have stereo sound. It's not that great, but we'll take a deep dive into it now. So first up, let's take a look at the front panel, what we have. We've got a standard on-off button. That's the major power button. Then we've got the volume up and down here, which obviously adjusts the volume. Then we've got our program buttons here, and then we have our menu. So what I might do is I'll quickly take you through the menu options. So for ease of use, I'll use the remote to do the adjusting. I can use repeat the menu button from the remote. There is a menu button on there. So we have sound, so you can adjust the volume, bass, treble, balance, effect, etc. Now, I will say this doesn't have great volume to start with. If I just turn the menu off, I'll turn the picture up. I'll turn the volume up, sorry. It's a very tinny sound. I don't know if you guys, that's coming through, but it is very tinny. If I adjust the bass, I'm not going to say that does anything really. It's pretty horrible sound really. It's very tinny. I'll just turn that volume back down again. And we'll go through the rest of it. So there's the sound button. They've got the picture button, which adjusts your brightness, color, contrast. Now the main one, you won't be able to adjust color in RGB. RGB's RGB. You can't really adjust it unless you jump into the red, green, blue guns. But you can obviously adjust your brightness and your contrast, which is, you know, always you do that to your eye. Sharpness I don't think will have an effect. That's more for composite, and I can see there it's not having an effect on the picture whatsoever. Hue probably does nothing either. Picture mode, you got 16 by 9 or 4 by 3, and then you store to save it. Pretty straightforward really. If we also look at the front, we've got our composite inputs here as well. So we've got our video and our stereo. We've got a video and a stereo jack from the front panel, which is always handy to have, especially for testing. So let's take a look around the back now. We've looked at the front. We'll come around and I'll just bring the light with me. Ooh, just try and get this in a good position so you can see. So I'll bring it around. You can see there, the neck board on this thing is absolutely tiny. The microphone or the little jack that holds the thing, you can see the size of that. Well, there's a Mega Drive controller for comparison, so you know it's absolutely tiny compared to what I'm used to seeing. Now that's probably quite common for late models, I don't know, but it's certainly the smallest one I've ever seen. The chassis itself is quite small and compact. I'm not going to dig too far in there. There's not much to see. Your standard stuff really, and then we come up to the tube. So this is a Thompson tube. And there's the make and model, see if I can get it there, for those guys who are interested in what type of tube this is. So now we're looking at the geometry. It doesn't look too bad, but you know, looks can be deceiving. If I just zoom in to the side here, I'll just see if I can get it into a position here where you guys can see it. It's quite jagged on the edges there. And also too, the convergence up in the corners isn't real great either. So, yeah, it's not too bad for a consumer set, but you know, it's certainly nowhere near what I'd expect from a more high-end set. Now, unfortunately, I've been through the service manual, and there's no setting I can find in there to adjust the horizontal width. I can adjust the horizontal position, but not the width. There is a setting in there that you can adjust. But looking at the service manual, it's only for a particular tube, and that tube comes with the larger TVs that you can adjust it on. On the smaller one, when you go to adjust it, it actually does nothing. So unfortunately, you're kind of stuck with that geometry, and there's basically no overscan outside that, which if I go back to a game, I'll just quickly flick on a game for you guys and I'll show you what I mean. So on this screen you can see what I mean by the whole, you know, where you'd like to overscan that side out. You can see there that it bends in a little bit and it just has that little black border around it. So, and that one shows it even better. Now normally I like to adjust that out. It doesn't really bother me as long as I can adjust it out. But on this particular one I can't. So you're kind of stuck with it because that setting is just not enabled in the service menu. Another hard thing I found about this CRT is the service menu itself. While accessing it's easy enough, to get the adjustments right it's quite difficult because what you have to do is, I'm in RGB at the moment, I have to, you know, if we look at the remote, I have to flick it back to TV, which obviously if I've got the Mega Drive on, the RGB is going to try and do it over the top, but it can't sync. That's fair enough. So I'm in TV mode at the moment, and then normally that would show snow if I'd turn the Mega Drive off, but I'm not going to bother. To access the service menu, you press the blue teletext button, which will bring up this, and then you press the numbers 4725. And you'll see on the screen there it says adjust. If you just press across on the little menu here, you'll come up with these adjust numbers at the top there, and if you refer to the service manual, those adjustment numbers do mean something, although what you have to do is you have to also read it and make sure that it's applicable to the tube, because some settings are only applicable to what they call, it says 110 type tube, and then reading a little bit further on, I think it's the tube, that 90 or 110 has to do with what particular size CRT or Teac that you've actually bought. Now, just like on any factory CRT or normally, what happens is it's automatic blanking on it. So, you know, if I'm on my analog screen now, you know, back in the 90s, there was usually the news or something on. If you plugged your RGB Scart console into this and then turned it on, as I will now turn the Mega Drive on, you'll see it automatically blanks to the RGB signal. And if I turn that off again, it'll go back to default, which is the snow. So you don't have to switch it from the manual, from the remote. If you don't want to, you can automatically do it from the console. It does it by itself. It must have that 5-volt line on it to engage that blanking. Now you can also switch it directly to RGB if you have the remote. So I'll just turn my Mega Drive back on there, and what I'll do is I'll simulate going back to the TV there, and then you can press AV on here on the remote, and then you can flick through to RGB. So you can either do it from the remote or it automatically blanks. I can't see a setting where you actually turn that off in the service manual either. So there's probably a couple of things to note with this CRT as well. It is light gun compatible, so 50-60 Hertz, so you won't have any issues with light gun games on this. I had a quick test before just to make sure, double check, but I was 100% confident it would work. So definitely you can use it with light guns. And another good feature about this, or it's not actually a feature about the CRT itself, it's more the paperwork side of things. The service manual is readily available in the internet. So would I recommend this? Well, any RGB CRT I'd recommend if you got a chance to pick it up, but obviously it has to be at the right price. Now this would be the lower end of the price range for me. You know, I wouldn't pay any more than, you know, $50 to $80 for this CRT. You know, as long as it fitted into the space that I wanted and did the job, then that's kind of the limit that I'd pay. I certainly wouldn't go out and fork out, you know, Lerva monies or Bang & Olufsen money on this particular CRT. But it's interesting, the Teacs I've had good experiences with. I'd kind of put the Teacs, if you tier the RGB CRTs that I've come across, obviously the PVMs and broadcast models, you know, they're the top tier. Then you have your Bang & Olufsens, your Euros, and that type of stuff. You know, they're sort of your middle tier. And then you got your bottom tier. Now, I'd normally have the Teacs, some of the Teacs in the middle tier up with the European models, but this one is definitely down the lower end of it for sure. So that's it from me, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give you a bit of insight. If you know, I'll put the model number and stuff, the service manual, links in the description. So if you go and pick one up, hopefully if you Google it, this video should come up. Because I'll put the part number and stuff in the description. So at least it'll give you some insight as to, well, if you're going to pick one up, as to what it's about. You can have a quick look at the video and make your decision from there. So thanks for watching, guys, and until the next one, I'll see you then.